You've probably seen this game show up on your social media feed, and you're probably wondering to yourself, what even is a Unicorn Overlord? And how can I become one? Hey everybody, Relay here. Today I just wanted to give you guys a look into what kind of game Unicorn Overlord is, as well as whether or not it's worth the purchase of a AAA title, which is $79.99 Canadian, or roughly $59.99 USD. Now, unlike many of my Flop or Not series, I just want to get right into it so that way you can make a decision, and in doing so, I'm going to give you my honest opinion on the game in the few hours that I've had to play it. At first glance, we're greeted with a series of cutscenes which kind of presents us with the backstory of the rest of the plot of the game. Now, notably, the details and graphics here aren't the greatest, but as always, I always say that the graphics aren't what make a game great, it's the gameplay and the level of passion that was behind the development of the game. Besides that, I was a little worried at first because you start off the game kind of feeling like it's some kind of cutscene simulator or fight simulator, and it was at that point that I realized that this game was in fact a full-on strategy RPG and not a tactical RPG or a turn-based RPG. So what I mean by this, and you'll see that pretty quickly, is that in the battles, and this might throw some of you off, is that your battles are actually almost fought before you get into them. So you make all your modifications to your equipment on your character, and this will determine, as well as the class of your character, this will determine the outcome of the battle. So some characters are weak against others, and you kind of play around those weaknesses to get the desired result. As soon as you engage in a battle, you are thrown into a cutscene which allows you to watch the battle play out. And you can actually skip these battles if at some point you grow tired of them, but usually it's a better idea to watch the battles play out just to see if there's anything you have to adjust for future reference. So as mentioned earlier, and this might be where I have to clarify a little bit, the battles take place before you actually get into the battle. What I mean by that is because it's a strategy based game, you actually kind of customize your own attacks based on what equipment you select and what characters you have in one troop. And this is kind of hard to put into words, so I'll just use like a video clip for example. But certain equipments have certain abilities which will influence how you attack in battle, as well as your class, which will influence your initiative and your skill set. For example, Gladiator class is slow and they usually attack last, and the Thief class is quick, usually attack first. The Hunters have a skill that allows for a guaranteed hit for those who have a high evasion, and they deal extra damage against flying enemies as well. So there's quite a few mechanics to get into, which you'll want to do beforehand because this game is all about preparation, hence the genre of strategy RPG. Now, when I looked at the trailer, this threw me off a little bit because I was like, oh man, this isn't turn-based, and this is where I think a lot of people might get turned off. Like I said, people like actively participating in battles, and with this, technically you don't really participate in it. It's all the planning you do beforehand that generally matters the most. So if you're one that likes actively participating in battles like turn-based RPGs and stuff, I'm sorry to break it to you, but this may not be your ideal game. And since battling is the main component to this game really, this is the majority of what you'll be doing for a good part of the game. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Now, there are other aspects to the game, especially after you finish like the very few beginning battles. You'll notice that the world is a lot larger and you now have the ability to free roam. Now, once you do this, you'll find settlements across these different various stages that you complete, which are like little missions, basically a way of progressing in the game. And once you liberate these villages, then you can do like little side quests, like delivery quests, where you can go run, grab items, deliver them to the community, and as a result they give you points back in like a honor point system. And this honor point system is what lets you eventually expand your troops in your army, and that's kind of how you progress in the game. That being said, I just wanted to touch on the characters a little bit. There are quite a few main characters that you meet along the way, but even the town NPCs and stuff in the game are actually kind of fun to talk to. They give you useful tips every now and again, and I love seeing it because it means that the world that you're in, the environment that you're in, is not dead. And that's a huge aspect that a lot of AAA games to date still get wrong a lot of the time. They fill a world with like empty characters that don't kind of contribute to the story or the quest in any way. And in the few 5 or 6 hours I've had a chance to play, I've actually found this to be an enjoyable experience. And despite the fact that the art style is somewhat simple, it still has a way of capturing the environment that you're in fairly well. And you know what, it has a certain feel to it, a certain vibe to it. When you enter a different area, like the swamp for example, you can feel like it's hazy there. You can tell by your surroundings that it's a different area than the rest of the map so far, and that's cool. I like that kind of stuff. It makes you feel kind of immersed in the environment. And if you're still watching this, kind of intrigued and are worried about the difficulty, don't be. There are 3 different difficulty presets. If you just want like a story mode, you can pick easy mode, and then there's like a normal in between, and then there's a much harder mode for those who are familiar with this kind of game. Now, having just talked about easy mode and focusing on the story, we'll just touch on that real quick. The story is, in my opinion, somewhat generic. It's been used before. It's like the classic usurping of power by the enemy, in this case, from the protagonist, which is the queen. And since that usurping of power, the new hierarchy has basically taken over the entire continent and invaded and amalgamated all the other little provinces. Now, as the main protagonist in this, your job is to liberate each province area by area until you've liberated everything, basically. And along the way in doing this, you meet a few key characters, some of which actually give you an option and basically make it a real RPG, whereas you can spare the character that you're in a battle with or execute them, and this will ultimately have an effect later on down the line. So some of these characters actually have kind of a real charm to them, which is cool to see, as they don't just feel like generic cookie cutter models of characters. Oh, and the voice acting is actually quite phenomenal, which for some reason caught me off guard. So to sum things up, the game itself, despite the fact that it looks simple and it looks like I could probably play this on my mobile device, is actually something that I've grown to like over the few hours I've had a chance to play it. But at the same time, it won't be for everyone. I can tell you this right now because I know a lot of people who will not play something unless it's at least tactical or turn-based RPG, and having no influence in the battle during the cutscene itself, which is oftentimes part of the fun, will be a turn-off for a lot of people. While at the beginning the story so far isn't anything special, I think it's enough to keep people at least somewhat involved and does give the game a sense of purpose. And outside of missions, the environment is pretty lively. There are quite a few NPCs to interact with, as well as little secrets to find every now and again, and these things just add to the experience. The difficulty can be easily adjusted based on your skill level, and therefore won't be a barrier to getting into the game itself, as you can just coast along on easy mode, or if you want to give yourself a challenge on hard mode, you can do that too. So if you like strategic RPGs, I'm sure that this game will be great. It seems to have a lot of the great characteristics which really make a solid game. However, the price tag at $79.99 Canadian or $59.99 USD, in my opinion, is still quite steep. And so for those of you who aren't quite into the strategic RPG genre, I would suggest that you maybe try the demo first before you buy, just to see whether or not it's something you would like before you go and drop a AAA title's worth of money on the game. I will have a more thorough review later on once I get my hands on the game, but until then, if you have any questions, please let me know. Comment, like, dislike, and subscribe for more. Take her easy.